This podcast is brought to you by NRL Group Incorporated. I'd like to welcome Janet Stewart-Lussier. She is a professional speaker and trainer who helps organizations develop high-performance work teams and is the author of Let's Talk Team Building, 10 Strategies for Becoming a High-Performance Team Member. Welcome, Janet.
Thanks, Stewart.
What are we going to explore today?
Today we're going to look at communication skills, but more specifically, we're going to look at the 3 communication styles: passive, aggressive, and assertive. Now, when I say those words, particular characteristics, maybe even particular people, come to each listener's mind. So let's explore each one of them one at a time. The first one, passive. When I say passive, what comes to mind? Well, typically you might think of someone who's really, really quiet. They don't like to rock the boat. The danger, of course, in the workplace is that these people, sometimes they're not very forthcoming with their ideas and not very outspoken, or they're not used to verbalizing their ideas a lot for whatever reason. But in a workplace, we really want to make sure that we're connecting with everyone in the workplace and tapping into all of the riches, all of the experiences and education and skills that they bring to the workplace. So when we notice a passive person in the workplace, you have to make a little extra effort to try and include them in the conversations, particularly in a team meeting where they might take a very quiet place. The next one, aggressive. That's at the other end of the spectrum. And when I say aggressive, often we have a person that comes to mind across our lifetime that we would describe as aggressive. They use techniques like bullying and sarcasm. They often will put other people down in order to make themselves feel better. They're not a particularly nice person to have to interact with, and it doesn't feel safe. It often doesn't feel safe interacting with these people because you throw your idea out there and you wait for the reaction to see if they're going to like it or not and make you feel lesser than for having suggested it. Well, somewhere in the middle of that continuum lies assertive, and assertive people are the ones that we really enjoy interacting with. Assertive people have a way of throwing out their ideas, their needs, their beliefs, their feelings, but in such a way that the other person's ideas, beliefs, needs, and feelings are also important and respected. So we like interacting with these people because it feels safe to do so. It feels safe to throw out an idea knowing that that person may or may not agree with it, but they're not going to come down on you just because they don't necessarily have the same point of view that you do. The important thing with respect to styles is to develop some style flexibility, to recognize which style is your preference or where you tend to hang out the most. I try very much to hang out in the assertive zone, but the kind of work that I do, I need to be working collaboratively with people. But I'll admit that there are times in my life when I've gone to a more passive place or even to a more aggressive place because of the circumstances, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Think back to when we turned to the new millennium, the day the whole world was supposed to end, and then it was a big non-event. My husband and I were at a family party on his side of the family, and you'll notice that my last name is hyphenated. It's Stewart-Lussier. So my first language is English, but I can speak French. I was doing my best to be assertive in my second language, French, at this party, and after a while, for those of you who have ever operated in your non-primary language, after a while your brain just gets tired and you can't take it anymore. So at that point, I decided to get myself a refreshment and go over to a corner and kind of give myself a little bit of a time out to recuperate, then take another go at it. I made a conscious decision to go to a passive place based on the circumstances. I can also admit that there was a time when I was in a store and I was trying to return something. I wasn't really getting through to the person who I was interacting with, and I could feel myself going to a more aggressive place. At that point, you need to make a decision. Are you going to go there, or are you going to pull back into the assertive zone? Remember that collaboration lives in that assertive space, and as much as possible, you want to try to hang out there.
Those are excellent tips, Janet. If you want to find out more about communication skills as well as other tips on building a high-performance workplace, you can visit Janet's website at letstalkteambuilding.com, where you can download audio files of her entire book or just the chapters that are of interest to you. Again, that website is letstalkteambuilding.com. And if you'd like to contact Janet and her team directly, you can do so by email at janet@letstalkteambuilding.com. Thanks for being with us today, Janet, and I look forward to our next podcast on customer service.